Bloomberg News reported Wednesday that billionaire Elon Musk's bankers are considering offering the Tesla chief executive officer new margin loans backed by the American automaker's stock to replace some of the high-interest debt on his Twitter deal. According to the report, which cited people with direct knowledge of the situation, the margin loans are one of the options that the Morgan Stanley-led bank group and Musk's advisors have discussed in order to reduce the $13 billion debt that Twitter assumed as part of Musk's $44 billion deal. For more on these headlines, we're joined by Efosa Aluyi, head of investments at Sankore Global Investments. Efosa, good to see you again. Good morning. Starting with the great stuff. Starting with Asia, we're seeing some rebounding happening there. What do you make of the reopening and the warning from Anthony Fauci?
Well, I think, China has had to deal with, really significant protests, the likes of which we haven't seen since 1989. So the authorities had to, something had to give, and the authorities had to, balk under that pressure. But I think what is really critical is the fact that in spite of the seemingly high vaccination rates in China, we still have these, very significant lockdowns. So it is important that, the rhetoric coming out from there is proper. Again, at the beginning of this situation, we knew that we didn't quite get all the information that we needed from China. So I have a feeling that there's probably something going on there that the rest of the world doesn't know. But I think Anthony Fauci is very correct. It is important that there is very aggressive, proactive vaccination, such that an opening up of the economy doesn't then create an unintended health crisis in China.
Moving to Europe, Vladimir Putin saying the war may be prolonged. What does that mean for global markets, in your view?
I think that's our base case scenario, really, for the geopolitical situation in Russia and Ukraine. We think that this war is likely to descend into a war of attrition, where you're going to see aggressiveness every now and then. And we could see a situation where Russia essentially controls, some swaths of land in eastern and probably southern Ukraine. And that's the situation we're likely to see. But I think the impact for market really is likely to remain muted, except, of course, there is a great sector of escalation in the conflict. So right now, I think that the market has kind of gotten used to the situation in Russia, Ukraine. The market is obviously dealing with the inflation that is also stoked, so I don't think that it would have a significant impact on market direction. I think market is really much focused on, central bank monetary policy direction going into next year. So I think that'll be more of a factor that the market focuses on than the Russia-Ukraine situation. Of course, if there's a major escalation, which we really don't see, that has potentials to obviously, change market direction. But in the interim, I think that we're just going to have this war kind of drag on. We're going to have the continued resistance from Ukraine. We're going to have continued support for Ukraine by the West, and we're going to have Russia continue to carry out this, intermittent barrage of attacks to try and subdue, the will of the Ukrainian people.
I want to get to Europe. Marcus Braun of Wirecard going to trial. Theranos, the chief executive there, I think chief operating officer, getting 13 years in jail. I mean, fraud. What any lessons to learn from what we're seeing with these convictions and trials?
I think that at the end of the day, it's important to note that, regulation needs to remain strong to ensure that people are protected. And I think that, if you look at the Theranos situation, how it's unraveled, look at the Wirecard situation, it just tells you that, regulation remains strong in those jurisdictions. And whatever it is that people are doing, you need to understand that the regulation will always be there to catch up with you.
Sam Bankman-Fried, the New York Times reporting that he could face a probe for market manipulation. I don't know how long this is going to take because, folks have been asking why hasn't the law caught up with him yet? Is it a cautious process? Do we have to allow wheels of justice to turn? What do you make of that development?
Essentially, you have to allow the wheels of justice to turn, and these things take time. I mean, if you look at the Theranos situation from when it unraveled, from when she, was then arrested and charged to court, and then the conviction, it's basically taken about 7 years, But for the SEC and market manipulation charges, those could happen slightly quicker. But again, it's going to be some sort of drag. We're going to have to, wait this out. It's not going to happen really quickly. But I think critically, what this again just brings to the fore is that there needs to be even stronger regulation within the crypto world. And I think this whole FTX unraveling would create a situation where there is even greater advocacy to ensure that, the regulation is robust and it is solid as well.
Elon Musk and this report on possibly another margin loan using Tesla shares as reported by Bloomberg. How do you think Tesla shareholders feel about this report?
Well, at the end of the day, Elon is obviously going to use his own shares of Tesla to do this. It's just financial engineering to ensure that the cost of buying Twitter doesn't become too heavy, particularly as interest rates rise. So it only makes sense for them to do this. If we were still in the low interest rate world, then there will absolutely be no reason for him to take this route. Remember and recall that he's been advised by some heavyweight global banks. So this is just some financial engineering to ensure that burden of the purchase is significantly reduced as interest rates rise. I don't think that it would have any significant impact on Tesla shares on the shareholders themselves, because this would be Elon putting up his own shares for this purpose.
Efosa Aluyi, head of investments at Sancori Global Investments, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us on the Global Business Report.